Okay, no taxes. Nothing. Got it. And there's nobody else, so I just need nobody in the.
Nobody hanging out.
All right, so there's nobody on Zoom, 6:01. We're going to call the meeting to order. We have a quorum of board members. I'm Clayton Carter, I'm the board chair, sitting next to me here for the recording.
Dave Cole, Vice Chair.
The one other board member here, Eric. The two board members absent, Eric, Tim Sanborn and Molly Gleason. Molly may show up. Haven't heard otherwise. Administration is here.
Mark Tucker, Superintendent.
The building principals.
Natalie Conley. Sarah Welch, elementary principal.
And our new CCSU facilities director.
Brandon Lawrence.
Or renewed CCSU. Hi, Brandon. Thanks for coming. I appreciate you coming out. So that's great. And that's everybody that's here. Before we get going, does anybody have any additions or changes to the agenda as yet? That I know about? We mentioned them. I have none either. Okay. So we move on to approve the minutes. The first set of minutes is March 4th. March 4th was an informational meeting only in North Danville. At the time, there was a couple of us there. At the time, there was no business was conducted at this meeting. There was nothing that happened that was board related. It was simply informational. So I would just ask for your consent in approving these minutes so I can pass them on to Kate. Any objections? Can you pass these things on?
I can make a motion
He cannot.
and he can second it, but he can't vote. He can abstain with a tie. You can vote.
I don't need them approving that to that degree because it's informational only. I just need your consent.
Thumbs up.
All right. There's no objections. I have your consent to approve those. No business was conducted, so I'm pretty confident. The next set meeting was the reorganizational meeting on March 7th, and at that point, we all three were board members here. This was the reorganization meeting. There was of note one piece of paper that Dave needs to sign tonight. Do you have that piece of paper with you?
He did it.
Okay, so that's signed. That's everything that I saw that was that was the ethics thing or whatever. And then past that, the minutes I read them when Molly presented the meeting. She put the was unapproved. If you have any questions about them? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of March 7th.
So moved.
Eric makes the motion.
Second.
All in favor of approving those minutes?
Aye.
I'll also vote for the third vote if those minutes approved. Here's mine. Okay. All right.
Here's your booster seat.
You ready to have a book?
Is there enough? Is that big enough?
Yeah,
Is it tall enough?
that's the one I use.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Hey.
You got it right?
Well done.
All right.
Thank you. All right.
Brandon.
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So we are now on the minutes of 3:14. Minutes of 3:14 with the building committee. Then
Did you make that clear for, oh, you know, never mind.
Oh, I can do that.
We always, the other boards, we always have to announce.
Oh, who's doing
Nikki
it?
does our transfer.
what would I be announcing?
But Molly's here.
She's the clerk.
Oh,
She's the clerk.
Molly
Never
Gleason
mind.
has arrived. Molly, to say your name for yourself.
Molly does it.
Okay.
Sure, you got that.
You're supposed to say, hey, Nikki.
Sorry.
Hey, Nikki. Nikki doesn't want to be. So, hey,
He
Nikki.
can do them if he wants to.
She doesn't want to do them. So,
We got a consensus pass on the March 4th. And it's, because I couldn't say.
they're informational minutes. They don't matter. And then the second set of minutes, the March 7th, Eric motions to accept. Dave says second. And the three of us vote. We move to the 14 building advisor.
I'll wait for her to get done.
That's all right. I can look at the video. Yeah, go ahead.
I can send you that version. So we're on 3:14. This is the building committee meeting. At that meeting, we discussed and passed the Truex contract request, the Truex request for proposal. And that was the business that was conducted. Those minutes went out. We clarified what the meaning of it was. And any questions about those minutes? All right.
We'll make a motion to approve the minutes of Thursday, March 14th, 2024 is written.
Got a motion on that one.
I will second.
Second from Eric. All right. All in favor of those minutes being approved, please say aye. All right, motion carries. All right, where that puts us is it the superintendent's report?
So finally, after almost 5 years of
creating a, an extra page in the superintendent report for open positions are all online and up to date all the time. So as soon as the job gets posted on School Spring, it automatically updates the website. So if you go out to the ccsubt.net website and you look under the HR tab, you'll see it's in a different format now, but there are live links in there and you can go right to the job description. It's a nice little feature. That's why this is only one page.
That also fulfills our contractual obligations with the teachers to post available positions.
Right.
And staff in the building, and it's everybody's yes.
More timely doing it that way. And it's not just teacher positions, it's all employees. And nothing on the school construction to add. I'm still on the PCB remediation. I'm trying to open a discussion with Agency of Natural Resources about why they halted the planning process. Not getting a response from the agency secretary yet. Anger again.
I read that letter, yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like they're gonna give you much time.
What I think they have an obligation to have a conversation.
It seems like,
to show it to me right now, so I finger again and talking about other options with PSA. And they want to take this up. Because it's not just Cabot Danville.
no, it's everybody that's been told they have PCBs and now they're being was a problem.
A lot of them. Right? Yeah. We did 2 interviews today on the MTSS coordinator. We'll get a third tomorrow. Okay. So hopefully I have that sorted out soon this week. And do have some applications for Vanessa's position. Everybody knows that the Vanessa's leaving.
Do you got the email? He's in charge right now.
So there's some applications where I'll be putting a team together on that. Nobody with school experience, but people with, like professional credentials. Society of Human Resources Management, they have a certification programs. A couple of people who look really good in terms of their broad experience with HR. We'll have to sort out, and we'll interview them, how easy it would be for them to come to the school. But we'll see.
Is Matt Foster going to be involved in that hire as well? Or?
He's deferred that to me, but I'm not doing anything without talking.
Okay.
He asked me to go ahead and take care of that. In part because I know what the job requirements are. So, but I don't know if he'll be involved in the interview process, but he and I have talked 2 or 3 times a week about it.
This meeting is being recorded.
I got kicked out.
Okay.
No, I'm back in.
Okay. So unless there are any questions on what I wrote, that's.
Do you have any questions, Superintendent? When we get to meeting planning, I'll have a thing about the new superintendent to talk about, but nothing yet. All right. Student services report is next. Another one where we're talking transition. And we have a plan in place for transition, talking transition of staff and personnel, so we hope it goes smoothly. We'll also keep us posted.
Sure.
Moving on, principal's report. Do you want to tell us anything specific out of here? Do you want to tell us, my kid today came home and he was so happy he had 2.5 hours of recess to finish his test. He said, that's all I'm going to recess for. He was outside for 2.5 hours for the best day of his life.
Fully earned it.
Yeah.
Special. We're very happy with how C testing is going.
Good.
It is pretty smooth, so.
So this is one of the things that Eric had some questions about state testing that we're going to eventually get together and talk about. But one of the things we talked about last year was how poorly state testing was implemented and how
Very clearly
from the state level, and so the lack of efficacy of the programs and everything, how it affected some schooling. And so I'm going to put you guys in touch with Eric to have some questions and answers, maybe some agenda items talking about. But
I think like Sarah stated before, the hardest part of the state so early, know, and I think that's what's makes it a disadvantage, specifically more, courses like science, where you can only cover so many topics in a certain amount of time, so they're tested in math too. You can only cover so much, but it's kind of, they're testing.
But that was also.
Yeah, yep, but
Yeah.
other than that, going smoothly, we have our staffing updates here too as well, I put Brandon in her board report, but Pam Whitecross in here as well, she won her substitute for Susan Cobheiser. Actually, it's about publishing.
Yeah,
Science, public development.
spring sports, we have softball, for high school, as a club sport, but we do not have baseball. If we have it at the gym, so we're not.
It's not a free school.
There's not a union baseball team.
So we're number. We have a middle school baseball.
Yeah, no, some of the, I think we had like 8 kids. in baseball team. Some of them, their jobs are too far away, so they could play if it was all at one school and not the other. And so they lost people. So it could be. So, yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah, that's a shame. From sort of a town perspective, we're working hard to try to get as many kids in for Little League this year as we can. We have
Yeah,
incredible numbers of T-ball, more than we've ever had.
I know Randy and Dina are working to figure out that not just baseball and softball that have such high numbers for youth sports,
Mhm.
for all of the sports, and so then where's the breakdown happen? Right, and so is that what it is?
Oh, that's interesting, yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Well, in high school, it's supposed to be.
Well, sorry.
It doesn't start in high school.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot more pressure that it's not fun.
Is that, the parents? Or is that coming?
I think it's just how, back in the day, here I go, tell my age.
Here we go.
Back in the day, growing up,
You got nothing on the ball, so don't.
so everyone played 3 sports and it was just fine. And maybe there were some winter programs for soccer that students did. Now in 3rd grade, there's AAU club soccer, club basketball. There's just so many more opportunities to play sports year round. And so kids are specializing. You know, I coach lacrosse and we find, they're now playing 2 sports. So soccer and, basketball are kind of really big right now. And so that pulls from our lacrosse season in the spring.
It's pulling from our lacrosse season right now. so
Yeah.
We're here, we don't.
For
pull
this high
lacrosse
school,
season.
yeah. So I think that's what's going on, and you can only do so much as a parent and as a kid, you don't want.
Sure.
So I think kids are starting to choose 2 sports versus playing all 3, and if it's too competitive and coaching matters, I mean, all that, I think it's like the pressure that kids feel if it's not fun or not, or, I think it's tough.
I mean, our gym is used almost every single day for multiple
Yeah.
AAU teams still, like
Yeah.
basketball.
For
season.
basketball, like not
For
baseball.
basketball,
tryouts are
basketball
not-
was done, but we still have kids from here and then we open it up for other teams too, like we're playing AAU.
Yeah, yeah, we're so small regional, is it, only field so many teams, even regionally, so. It's great that there's strong soccer teams and that's great, the benefits that can do with other sports for sure.
Yeah.
But our kids that want to play baseball, I found a place to play baseball.
And then softball is, I guess the softball update, and they don't have a team for softball.
They are varsity is starting.
Oh, they do,
Yeah.
okay, so all Danville or is that in Danville?
Danville, Twinfield.
Who's
that's our
coaching?
last year. I assume it's Twinfield coach. It's who coached last year as well.
And 7-8 is fully Danville for both boys and girls. Is that softball, baseball?
We only have baseball.
Okay. So where are those girls gonna go? Softball, girls?
I don't have that.
Okay.
So we don't have any Danville varsity sports in spring. Like
The
softball,
the
just
softball.
Danville. Well,
No, but we haven't
Yeah.
had Danville, just,
Yeah, that's
we haven't had for several, baseball's been combined with Twinfield for quite a few years.
Mhm.
Softball was last year, so this year that had happened. So,
just, okay.
then we did, it partially, and that's, we had the big discussion about this, the fall, it's the number of people that we are, like, that's why we do have a, Danville basketball team, because it's, 5 players, so.
Yeah, no, I understand. I think Molly and I are coming from the same spot. We've both grown up in team sports and so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We have an affinity for team sports, so it's sad to hear.
Oh, it's,
Uh,
this was shocking, and then there's a lot of emotions in this building and amongst people here. People are pretty devastated about
The cross country is doing well, right? And then they're doing that.
Track, yeah,
Yeah, that's, I mean, maybe they're just changing their interest, that'll adapt and, yeah, change.
Right.
Yeah, like you said, that baseball's got a lot of kids in it, our lacrosse team has like 60, in the program, there's like 60 to 70 girls signed up.
oh, no kidding, 60 to
In,
60?
through St. J. Rec, so.
Oh, okay.
but we've had a huge lacrosse team here the last couple
Right.
of years, and we
Yeah.
don't have enough.
Yeah. And the girls were playing with the boys, right? Yeah.
So it-
And well, like the Boy Scouts, they're down like to a record low. So it's not just sports or the school, it's just, things are competing for their attention. And I think a lot of it's electronics.
Yeah.
You know,
You can participate, you can, I don't know, again, you play Fortnite with all your buddies sitting in your bedroom, if you go out of the house. That's taking eyeballs away,
you gotta run laps.
That doesn't have to drive you to Hartford.
Also, so that's what I'm, like,
Right,
it's not every parent has that ability to drive. We are not just Danville, but we're transporting softball kids down to Danville, come back and like that, so they can get that. But that didn't happen for middle school soccer, for Cabot and Plainfield, that expectation. Like for my own kids, I think here, get them to sport.
Right, I think that's a part of it too. Parents, you know,
So if you guys saw in the packet, there was a letter from the two athletic directors, and they're gonna have a meeting in Twinfield on April the 9th.
Yeah.
See if they can open a dialogue with high school parents, with Twinfield, Cabot, and Danville to see what they need to be providing. So if you guys are having any interest in team sports, that'd be a place that you can go, that, and that's in the packet. That.
I'm curious if there will be a change in division, because if you're pulling, and VPA, they don't care how many kids sign up. They're gonna see you have this many girls eligible at Cabot, Danville, and Twinfield,
That is how it is.
and it's just like, you've got 160 available kids, you're Division 3. Where it's, I think 80 or 84 is the cutoff for Division 4. Anything above that, you're Division 3.
It will like to be.
And it'll,
Anything further on that? Any principal? All right. So we're gonna move down to board business. And the first set of board business is the superintendent's seasonal hiring authority. And can you go ahead and just lay that out for Eric so he understands what we're talking about? How we do this?
so
How we have done this in the
when
way
we get into, we're coming into that time of year where we are actively having to recruit to fill positions, like the positions, Danville and all the other schools. And so what happens is, for professional level positions, have to be approved by the board. We're always worried about this time crunch about, I'll give you an example. So I just hired a teacher for Peachum yesterday, And, the teacher board met last night and I scrambled to get my meeting in with the teacher to place her on the salary schedule, so she'd say yes and I could get her to the board. That just happened to work out timing wise. It doesn't, but with the board's meeting on a monthly basis, like if I hired a teacher tomorrow, then the next regular board meeting is not until May, and we'd be calling special meetings all the time.
We had an example of that in the last year, 2 years ago. We had a board meeting the next day. We found a math teacher from middle school that we need to hire, and we scrambled to get a meeting together that Friday afternoon, like 3 o'clock, just to get people to say yes to something. And so Mark has a workaround that we've developed that, where if he has a hire that he wants to make, and we can traditionally already give him this authority in the summer. It's called superintendent summer hiring authority, where the board doesn't have to meet for a hire to happen over the summer, but the hiring season is not the summer. And so we just extended the hiring season. And so Mark, if he has a hire that he'd like to make in between meetings, that doesn't require all of us to get together, for instance, a math teacher, or in the case of just the other day at the CCSU level, it was a speech pathologist, a speech pathologist that came down, if we had that person hire, and we would set the meeting 2 weeks, and so rather than a special meeting, he can call me, the board chair in this case, and he could say, I have this hire that I'd like to make, will you approve it on behalf of them? And then as a stand-in for the board, we have discussed it in public, and you can make the hire, and if I don't feel comfortable, then I can call for a meeting. In case where there's something like, we didn't do it for assistant superintendent at the CCSU level, that needed to be open for questions, we could do it for a job we wouldn't fill. So that's the sort of a situation where, in the case of the assistant superintendent, I said, no, let's have a meeting about it. He didn't ask for that either, but in that case, you have a meeting. In the case of where it's somebody position of need, or like if suddenly 3 days from now, a physical education high school teacher popped up out of the blue, said I'd like to be hired, and that's a position of great need in the state, and he said, I've got somebody for this job. We don't want that person dangling or doing another interview. We want to hire them again. So in that situation, to grant this authority to the superintendent, he would call me and say, I have this hire to make, and will you approve it on behalf of him? Or if it's a Danville.
So technically, what you're being asked to do is to give Clayton the authority to approve the hire on the board, on the behalf of the board.
Right, to act instead of the board, rather than call a special meeting.
We've done it this way now this will be the third year.
We didn't do it the first year, and we called special meetings through the summer. We had to do a couple special meetings in the summer to catch up and not miss out on hires.
But this would be the third year.
Right, there was a time when the board decided not to do this, and it didn't work out very good.
Well, we did
It's a lot
during,
better to, to have the process. For the Peach example, you might have lost that employee, but
during COVID, we didn't do it. During COVID, we didn't do it because we were meeting virtually already, and we were all just sitting in our houses, doing nothing, waiting, wishing we could have a meeting, and get somebody to talk to. So
It's part of, I'm trying to remember, part of it is making sure you inform the board what's going on, if we're not in the dark about it. You make the decision, but you inform the board of what's happening.
in that case, right, then the board gets informed that the hire's been made. And so yeah, you get, I acted on your behalf of the superintendent brought me this hire, and this hire's been made. Yeah, that was the one of the consideration.
Oh, interesting. So it's not like we get sent it all and like you'll just respond with, I approve. You'll get it and then.
And then you get told that it happened?
Yep. Okay.
To a degree rather
We have
than.
no power.
No, I understand.
But from our perspective, I think it's super important that there is,
Well, I think,
well, expedited, but there's also not enough teachers.
because you can't call an emergency meeting to make a hire, because hiring somebody's not an emergency.
Right.
So then you can't do it that day. You can't say, we have a hire, let's all get together that day, even if you all could. So you have to wait at least 24 hours from when you have the information. So you have to start the clock from when he says, I have a hire I'd like to make, which means all the interviews are done. And you don't want to let him walk out of the office without signing the paper. Or you don't want to let him walk out, you want to give him a couple more days to do more interviews. And so in that case, you just can't make it an emergency if it's not an emergency. And we will still have emergency meetings and we'll still have special meetings. And if you'd like to be consulted, I can't really consult you because then I'm doing board business. I can't email you all and say, what do you think? Because then that's board business. So we'd have to be granting this authority.
You can still send an email with your satisfaction or dissatisfaction. Sure. Of his choice.
Right, after the fact.
After the fact, but,
Don't do this again, right?
Right, sure.
or next time be aware of this.
Right.
Gotcha.
So, and this would end, this would go until the end of, Mr. Tucker's tenure?
No, it's
Contract?
for the summer, for the superintendent, it's not for the person.
It's just not for Mark.
It's for Matt. He comes on until I.
Seasonal?
So
Okay, so that starts now and through the summer until the first day of the school?
First board meeting in
September.
September.
The September.
Right, September board
that
meeting.
day. So we're gonna put the date on that one.
You should have a date.
We're gonna put the date.
9/5 last year.
Let's see, so the first Tuesday of
9/3.
September is 9/3. Now, with that being said, you may want to meet with the superintendent in the summer every time you need something, so that you get to know his methods. And so in that case, we may not do this. In that case, I may call and ask you for a meeting. It says, I want to hire, and I say, well, let's get together. Let's plan a meeting. So it won't just be automatic. So it may be good to get to know Matt and how he's working, how this is gonna work, to get to know Michael.
How many hires are we anticipating for the summer?
We have 2 open positions. We don't,
Contracts don't come out. Like,
Yeah, that's what happens. So we issue contracts and then some teachers might go find a job somewhere else and not
and they have
sign their contract. And they have till May 15th.
Okay, so by May 15th, we'll know what positions you actually have.
they can ask for a 2-week extension, so by June 1st, theoretically.
that's a long time.
Theoretically barring any emergencies, but then we also have support staff, so.
Yeah, who we don't approve the hire.
Sports staff doesn't hire them.
Those go straight to.
Not hired by the board.
That's. a lot of hires.
So as of right now, expected to be more in June. Hopefully not expected to be a lot more.
So
Yeah, we don't know.
do you see any in July or in August, or do you think by mid or end of June that it would be all wrapped up?
All depends on if we can find somebody to fill an open position. So I would recommend that you extend it until September and then hopefully you don't need it.
I'm good with your decisions. I just haven't. Don't know.
If you're talking about the new superintendent and his decisions, he's not gonna make that decision. So your board chair.
Are you feeling Dave, like over the summer, just as we get to know him, it would be helpful.
We don't need any more meetings, but.
We can, I can bring it to you. I don't have to approve the hires. So if you tell me that you want to have this in place, but that you want to advise me to use it just for this superintendent, and then be more apt to call a meeting, if there's any questions, like I was just talking about, then we can do that even with the authority in place. I can tell the superintendent, no. I can say we should meet.
But the other thing to remember is they still come from, right, or who does all the interviews, the reference checking, all of those things. And then we are giving that recommendation to the superintendent. I agree that we don't know who that is. I'm very, very aware of the very limited pool. And
But if this will help with your comfort level, Matt was responsible for the process to hire the assistant. I had nothing to do with that other than bringing him to the FU board for approval because Matt didn't have the authority to do that. But Matt ran the interviews. He decided with his interview people they were going to interview. They conducted the interviews. They decided together. Matt said, "This is I want to hire Mark." So if you think that that was a good hire, you already have a first example of what he thinks about.
I haven't met him either. I haven't met him either.
We'll get to that one. I got an idea.
In the same vein as this, so you just brought up an interesting question for me, because we're missing an HR director. are we sourcing candidates in a very small?
We're not missing.
We're not yet missing any sort of.
Okay.
She's
Here until
employed
July
until July
1st.
And we
Okay.
do all our own.
Oh, you do, okay. Yeah, so you're responsible for sourcing your own candidates. I was, my concern was, do we have a gap there and?
Kind of, but not, yes.
Okay,
It's the onboarding.
sure.
We could do this. And have a discussion at the next meeting if you wanted to. I mean, I'm very comfortable, but the accountability of people that we haven't met yet. Putting that into their hands right now.
The board hasn't met.
Okay, so do you wanna-
I'm very confident
If in that
in
case,
Mr. Tucker and his crew at the CCSU and our principals, but
if that's the case, then you can put the date on it, through. You do through July the 1st, and then that ensures that we meet then in July, we need to meet in July. Sometimes we skip that meeting,
Meet July 2nd.
but July the 2nd, we'll meet in July. I'm aware.
Yeah, it can be virtual. I think we did that actually.
So if,
for the
what
North
this,
Danville Fair.
so what this is gonna do is this is gonna not allow me to bring up in June, do we need to meet in July? Because now we're gonna meet in July and we're gonna talk to the superintendent, talk about open positions. And not whether or not he can have the authority, but how he's gonna have to wanna meet with us all summer. You guys don't.
This board has not met. I'm getting confused with CCSU as the alternate, but this board has not met. You guys have not met. But maybe that would be starting July 1st. That might be a good way
Yeah, I think we should meet.
for everybody.
So,
to
but
meet them.
we'll need to meet in July.
Okay, let's just do it. We go do.
Mhm.
Have to do it.
If you want them to come to the baby,
I have a plan, but when we get to.
I know, we're still.
We're
derailing the
See,
plan.
you came to meeting, and three of us knew you through
Act 46.
Act 46.
But he also worked,
And he was a superintendent,
he was the superintendent of 2 of the districts.
not
Right.
a principal.
Right, so,
Right.
and you would come to even, when we had the cafeteria, that must have 200 people, at least 100 people in it. And people yelling and screaming, and you were there. That says a lot.
And I didn't run.
Let me stage.
I stayed.
Chained to the
And I'm
chain.
still here,
You still haven't got one.
89 days, not that I'm counting.
So you want to table this for a second, and just move down to future, next meeting date?
We want a motion to have it now,
Just
so that we don't have.
table it for just a second, we move down to next meeting day, we'll pick it back up in about 3 minutes.
Sure, what's your plan, Nick?
So I got contact, this is outside of board business, but I'm thinking that we could plan around community night, which is in 2 weeks on the 15th. There's a community night in this school,
The CCSU board meets the 15th.
the 15th, so this, the 17th is the day, so Wednesday, I have my days wrong. So on April the 17th, there is in this building a community night in which students are giving their presentations for senior capstone projects.
That's the
And
17th.
17th of April. And as of right now, I'm making grocery sandwiches in the kitchen.
Coming to dinner.
So, but,
I'm not sure.
right, I don't have it in, I gotta get a writer, but, but I was going to ask you
Well, here.
if you guys wanted to invite the superintendent and the assistant superintendent into the building for a meet and greet with Danville
Mhm.
on that day.
Okay, yeah.
Because
that's
that way they can walk around and be in the building. Then you are on your own to come to that meeting and introduce yourselves to them.
Well, not a meeting, just.
Not a meeting, but to the community night itself. And then you give you a chance to meet them.
But we can't all be in the same.
We can because we won't be conducting board
Okay,
business.
all right.
We can all be at community night for the school as long as we're
It
not
can be a
conducting
public
board
event.
business or discussing board business.
Right, it'd be like all of us going to a basketball game.
We can exist in the same place. We can't exist in the same place and then also make plans for whatever. So,
That's a good idea.
so I can, if you want to, I can reach out for April 17th for these two men, see if they're available to come, or at least if Matt's available to come, so.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, their availability will probably be more.
If I get one or the other of them, at least you'll have met one or the other.
And
we-
promote it to
at
community as
six.
a meeting.
Right, and then promote it as a meeting. But I wouldn't
6 o'clock.
promote it myself because I don't have the authority to promote.
Right.
I got Zazzy over here to promote it. And you're happy. You're happy promotion. Zazzy, her things are so zazzy. They're so great.
Jazzy?
There's good vibes coming off.
Oh, okay. Well, I agree with that. I just never
I
heard the
think
word.
so. Dinner.
Five-ish.
So if you're interested in that, this might be an opportunity for the community to meet them as well. I think we need that.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Certainly interested. It's interesting.
They're not gonna be that good. But that's what I mean.
We do have on the books, building advisory meeting the next.
Right.
Oh, you're gonna be here a lot.
Well,
Constantly.
I understand that. That's fine.
They're coming in that one
The
too.
commute's fine, so.
I'll be in here the day before that, 2 days before that, and the day after.
Yeah, I didn't know if the building committee was also sort of an interesting time to either bring Mr. Brandon.
I've not yet leveled that. Well, I haven't even met him officially. We've been not leveled him with that particular contract.
We really haven't been.
Meeting, yeah.
A lot. Okay,
Sorry, Mike.
so we're gonna talk about that in a minute. I'd like to go back to superintendent hiring season authority.
Am I putting this in the minutes or is that an off the record thing?
No, that's not good. That's absolutely on the record. I tabled the
Is it
discussion.
official?
I tabled the discussion of superintendent hiring authority to discuss the possibility of having a meet and greet with the two superintendents if I reach out to them. It's not set in stone, but I think that if we could do that, this would allay, it's gonna, to a degree, allay your concerns. Going back to superintendent hiring authority, let's not let him have it. If you guys don't feel comfortable letting the new superintendent have this authority, we can feel free to have meetings if we need to make a hire. But you, but no, what you're gonna tell me right now is, if I say, let's have a meeting in one day, you say, yes, I'm available, not I'm in Aruba, not I'm at the beach. You say, yes, I'm available,
So are you saying we go, Mark, would basically, your last day is the 30th?
June the 3rd.
So right now, we would vote to have it go through June 30th with Mark and hiring authority, and we'll do the same thing we've done.
Right.
Through June 30th, then we meet, and then we make it math,
We don't have to make it.
or if we want to. we make
That's
it
not my yet.
Okay,
If you have open positions, but rather than just turn authority over to some person that you have not yet dealt with.
I don't understand what the concern is. I'm sorry, because you are the break in the whole thing. You
And I
put
can,
the
and
kibosh
I
on the whole
can,
thing.
if I want to, given this authority, ask for a meeting anyway.
Right.
This
That's why I
already
don't-
exists. But if they don't want, if they want it to be a hard no, right now, then I'm just gonna let them do it.
Okay.
And it's fine, because
Okay.
Can we revisit this also in June after we should have gone through this and understand?
Yeah, and May.
What actually our hiring needs are?
or July, right? Or in June, at the end of July.
We
how
can
we
do
wanna
it in June, so that way there be no gap if we felt comfortable and all that. And we'll know how many positions we actually need to hire. If we're gonna need 10
Well,
emergency meetings or just one.
There's one I'm not sure about, and there's one I'm not sure we're gonna find anybody. So it's, I feel like PE teacher's gonna be a tough one.
So then we need to move to allow seasonal hiring authority from now until June 30th.
I'll take the motion. Yeah, I think that's,
I will so move.
I will say,
I have a motion to extend to the superintendent seasonal hiring authority from now until June 30th. I have a second on the same motion. Is there any further discussion? Hearing
just so you
none.
know, Eric, I'm wording it, it's with the authority, with the board chair, superintendent with the board chair.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
No further discussion?
Before discuss that.
That's it. So that we're all clarified, okay? So we're clarified on what we're offering. And then I'll let Matt know what's going on at this meet and greet. All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So next, we'd like to, I think that, we have a new facilities director. You know, mentioned in our, Report. Can you give you a chance to introduce yourself? Just say hi.
Brandon Lawrence.
Hi, Brandon.
Director. Yeah, look,
Thanks for coming on. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself so we can get started getting to know you? Because we're gonna know you a lot.
yeah. I live right here in Danville, up, on Eastern Pond Road. Got here 4.5 weeks ago. I just like to be outdoors, doing hunting, fishing, that type of stuff. Went to Twinfield. So I grew up in Marshall.
And you previously were the facilities director for Twinfield Academy. And then when you moved off from that, then we made this position a 3-school position.
Right.
Another man had it for a while, and then you come back and taken this position. So you're not super familiar with Danville School yet?
Yeah, nothing.
Okay,
Second day.
good. Okay, but you're on. Okay. And it's gonna snow. So, we'd like to.
I already got that set up, we already know.
It's not till later.
Yeah. So, that's great. We're happy to have you, and we need the help. We need somebody who likes to fix things. We need somebody who likes to be out. And we need somebody in Danville who likes to be seen. If that makes sense. When things are out there, if the man who's in charge is out there doing it, getting dirty, that makes people happy.
I was roofing out.
That's, so, we like this, I'm glad for Twinfield, but it's the same thing in,
Oh, yeah.
same thing in Danville. It's people in Danville like to see guys working, when there's work to be done. And, they like to see them, in dirty clothes, getting dirty, and it really is beneficial if you're here as often as you can be here, from our perspective. We've had some concerns in Danville that maybe when the job went to the supervisory union, it was too many schools for one person. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know what your feelings are on that. I hope you can take on the challenge, and I hope you're interested.
Yep.
And some of the things that I wrote up in this list were some of the things that we're concerned about going forward that we would like to see addressed. And I sent this list around to the people, but I haven't told you this. And none of this is onerous, none of this is an accusation. It's just some things to keep an eye on. One of the first things was with snow and ice here. The town does quite a bit of the plowing for us, but then there's a lot of areas where there's snow and ice, and especially some of the late evenings in the winter when people are here.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that we're safe and sanded. And that sort of a thing. There's been a lot of community talk about the entry. When you enter, Danville has a very good road crew, and they do a lot of work all over in town. They do our driveways, but they also have 87 miles of back roads to do with 5 trucks. And so they make a big wide swath here, left and right, but they don't always, are not always able to come back and push piles back where they need to be pushed back. And so sometimes you're navigating 2 piles of snow when a 3-lane road that's only 2 lanes. And you also have to remember what the giant pothole is that we would like to not have anymore, the giant pothole. So it's just all, and these are inattention matters. These are when you have one guy working at 3 schools and he's trying to direct the traffic at 3 schools and trying to direct everything. It's just, we just hope that as you're working these things in, start to be aware of some of our trouble areas. And that's one. This is the thing,
Right.
we don't get to have dinner because somebody says, you're building, why haven't you fixed your signs yet?
Yeah.
And to which I say, we approve the fixing of the signs, and the signs are somewhere and so just like the presentation of the building, I hear a lot about the weed whacking. And you say, what, the weed whacking? And you say, yes, the weed whacking. And what you don't specifically hear is, why isn't the facilities director covered in weed whacking? Why isn't, who's not working the weed whacking? And just that sort of a thing. And so just the presentation of the building, how the building looks, where there are places, and just if you have a hands-on nature, then you're probably going to be great.
Yeah. I love it.
I think it's good. And I think Molly has specifically mentioned and has had mentioned to her the blacktop on the playground.
The playground, the basketball court is in rough shape. It's got grass growing up through it. And I think we've had that on pause because we didn't know what was gonna happen. At one point, there was gonna be a new school going over there with our grade school. And that didn't happen. So now that's still out there. And I've heard a lot of complaints about that surface that it's cracked and we can't really,
Use it.
the community uses that too, so it's
Yeah.
not just the kids. Yes, that's,
But because we're on hold, we don't wanna look into replacing it, we wanna, cracking, seal the cracks, pick up the grass and seal the cracks, if the grass is going to crack, so. If the grass is there, so you pick up the grass and the grass is there, that's at least somebody's working on it.
I think that's mow it. It's grass. I'm pretty sure it has to be mowed. Or weed whacked maybe, yeah.
Was there anything else anybody had? Those were just the things that I was thinking of, original potholes and it's just 150 cars drive through there every morning and they all drive through the same spots. And they get choked up in there. And it's just, some of the stuff you're never you won't be able to do anything about because, when there's a food delivery that happens at 7 in the morning and every other car goes to 7 in the morning, people have to walk the preschool kids in. And then there's two people doing kiss and cry to drop their kids off. It's just always going to be a log jam unless we're bigger kids that just want our kids out of house and school.
I think with the potholes and the blackouts, I think it's a question of like how much we want to spend to fix them because they have been packed with full pack.
Well, we want for there not to be potholes.
Right. But
I think that in the past, the problem has been they throw cold patch in, and that doesn't last.
Right.
So
But
they may require a.
Even just like a small 10 by 10
It's
square
the
patch or
expense of
something.
that. So how are we kind of like, is that what you're like? Is that something that fits into the current budget?
Concrete,
Yes.
as
So
put in,
that's what that's.
Well,
you
like
want-
the asphalt, it's like an asphalt
Mhm.
square, like
Mhm.
wherever the hole is cut.
Right, so if you
So
want,
definitely you're gonna see like a perfect square. Version of that. Should last a lot.
and that's the only way to
Short of-
replace that.
Short of
section.
not.
Right,
Which we're in a limbo there. So
I mean, that's something we can definitely explore, but it's not something that fits in the whole perfect school year
What
budget.
would happen if somebody damaged a tire on our pothole? Would we be held accountable for replacing any of that, or if someone complained that, my tire is ruined, or would that be something that would fall back on us?
My response to that would be slow down the parking, because that's the only way to keep damage the tire.
I mean,
We're not-
it is very big. for
It's a
sure.
problem, and I've hit it a couple times, I'm like,
Yeah.
darn. But something
You go right
similar.
home.
Yeah, you have to know.
The cone's helpful, whoever the cone out, that's helpful.
So as you're familiarizing yourself with Danville, just if you can get here and snow and just take a look around and see how they do things and see how you could maybe maximize what they're doing, what our plan is going.
You do have good staffing numbers here. I would say is not to criticize it, they need direction. So sometimes they need to be told to go out and make sure you leave back today or something like that. That's how I view your responsibility. Although I also know that you're not afraid of cancer. The sign at Peacham Road, that sign sits on somebody's property. He complained to us last spring. He said, I don't mind if the sign's there, but it's ugly and it's falling apart. Can you fix it? And it did not get done. Okay, so we've got a sign somewhere in the building that was made and painted. It needs we need 2 posts put in the ground.
Right.
It didn't get done before the ground froze.
Yeah.
So it wasn't ready for it to put the sign up. So that, Brandon didn't tell you this when he introduced himself. He is a carpenter by trade, by profession.
Drive truck. Did a lot of work.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's got that in his background, so he knows how to fix things.
All right, good.
And I think off of Mark's piece about the superintendent, I think part of that is being present. And that's a piece of balancing the 3 schools that makes it really tricky because it's our crew needs more than just being told. They have been told, right? Not enough for what they.
Yeah.
how many do we have?
If we're fully staffed, we have 2 during the day, 3 at night.
Are we fully staffed?
Moderately.
For the moment.
Is
On
painting,
paper.
is painting in the budget, like the fencing, that's one thing that like you see when you drive by, and is that something that's in our budget, should be happening, like that fencing out here? Is chip and peeling, is that something that we regularly do every year, or
In the dugouts or?
just along Route 2, the fencing there? Is that,
Is that our fence? The fences on the road? Yeah, that's.
Do we, I was wondering too, do we take care of that grass like on the roadside of the fence?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's something that's ours, that we could paint and.
Yeah, whether it was funded, you know, principal.
Because when they planted the trees down Route 2, they made sure to put them 1 foot off
That fence,
from,
right.
The big white oaks.
from,
The sidewalk.
and
is
so
down.
then it became the property owner's responsibility to take care, which,
Oh, the fences.
no, the trees that went down, which happened to get in the way of Shelley's Christmas tree, so that one didn't make it.
Fence is ours. Make us notes, bring us notes about what you think needs to be done in terms of presentation. The building themselves.
So that ends something I always tell, folks that work for me, and you're not that, but, I think it's like, we can deal with bad news. Don't let us be surprised.
Right.
And I think that's where we've really gotten bit by, some things that have piled up here and that we're scrambling to deal with. So, yeah, if something's in bad shape, that's okay. We know stuff is in bad shape. So let us know and give us an honest assessment to help, get, even if it's an unpleasant conversation, that's we can have those. That's, I think that is- really had some problems in the past, it sounds like.
Yeah, better to hear from you or from the superintendent than that committee member, like, we're in the dark.
Or worse yet, an architect about something that should have been done 20 years ago.
Or I've read it in the paper.
So inconsistently, you guys received facilities updates, part of board reports. Would you like to see those?
Yeah.
Or-
Yes, we would like to see, certainly, I think, it would be great if you could bring us some initial, observations next month.
Okay.
And then after that, maybe every other month for a while,
Like
but you,
in person?
I'll take it on paper, but if you can be here, some of the stuff that you're gonna start talking about, what we're gonna do over the summer, how you're gonna, work your staff over the summer. In Danville to see what we can improve with some of these things we talked about.
Yep.
And so you have to be here, you can zoom in if you want to, if you don't wanna zoom in and don't wanna be here, you can send a written report. It just depends on how much you think you need to look us in the eye when you tell us.
I don't like.
Yeah, but- So it'd be great if we could just get an idea of what your thoughts are on the bill. Pretty quick.
And if we fix the, what's the timeline for repairs on those systems? So, the lighting, when do those need to be replaced again, or once we do the HVAC, when did that need to be updated? And I think that's where, right now, there's no plan because everything is in such rough shape. There's really no, but once we start repairing, having a plan going forward about, when those are gonna be used.
And we're really get a timeline of this. Certain order.
But it's all big, but certainly for right now, it's a lot of it is simply the presentation. Simply how the building works to the people that try to.
So we're showing this.
Yeah.
Big old what's up,
But again, thanks for coming on. Welcome back, sir. Thank you. Welcome back. Anything else for Brandon? All right, you can scoot if you want. Okay, the rest of it's fun. Thanks.
Thank you so
much.
Appreciate it. All right. So moving on, I talked about this at an informal meeting, and this has been broached a little bit with Randy. We wanted to start talking about this is something I want to take to the supervisory union level, because what has to be done. Fee schedules for sports, for youth sports. In Danville, we do a lot of youth sports, and the ones that are not club, that are just Danville, where we have kids from other communities participating, we let them in, and we're gracious neighbors and that, but all the expenses that get incurred, we incur. And some of those expenses include field maintenance and referees and coaching, and sometimes mileage and planning, et cetera, and fees for other tournaments that we go to. And one of the things that other people from the community ask, well, do these other towns participate? And I'd like to be able to tell them that there's a fee schedule. And about 2 months ago, Randy brought to me, he had a conversation with the Kingdom East athletic director, and he said that he is aware of a fee schedule that exists between some schools over there, and there's a layout for it. And so I asked the superintendent if I could bring this here, get your perspective on it in Danville, and whether we would take this to the CC, whether I'd be able to take this to the CCSU for the support of the administration.
Is it a fee per student? Fee per participant?
That had been my thought had been that it's per little participant.
Yeah, so it's per participant, families not, the school have it in their local budget.
Right, because they have it, right, they have it in the athletic budget.
So for instance, Waterford has it in their budget, they can get per student. A certain fee, to participate.
And Waterford's a CCSU school, and Kingdom East obviously is not.
Per student, per
Per student per sport. And so it's not, we're not asking for the families to pay. We're saying if you want to use our facilities to join our teams, then your school district, who's not providing that sport to you, would then participate on the fee schedule. And this fee schedule exists in other places, and this fee schedule has been discussed. And we're just sort of trying to relay the costs and sort of trying to communicate to our own community that we're not being taken advantage of by it, which has come up multiple times.
And not that we don't want to be neighborly, but we have needed.
It costs, just as a for instance, for every time you play a game, a referee costs $85. Every single time.
What's my own?
If you have two,
That's right. They each get paid $85. So when if you go in there and you look at the checks, you're paying the referees $85. If you want to take your Pee Wee kids to a tournament and the tournament is played in Waterford, you have to pay Waterford $200. But if some of the kids on your team come from Waterford, they're playing over there for free.
uniforms are pricey, they're all the costs, they're small, but they all.
It all adds up.
Yeah.
And so it was just, I would like to.
Precedent.
There's a precedent set because the CCSU school pays Kingdom East. And so this may be an argument at the CCSU level.
So CCSU pays, say, what do you mean by that? So
Waterford School District, Waterford School is part of CCSD.
Yeah.
And Waterford, CCSD on behalf of Waterford pays a fee schedule to Kingdom East for the kids in Waterford
Okay.
that play sports at Kingdom East.
Right, okay. Right, because they're not.
Waterford kids play together
Yeah.
with kids from Concord.
Yes.
Concord.
And they're Concord part of.
Right.
And they have community south and they have community north, right, break them up. Like,
And Waterford played with whichever one.
Yeah.
Whichever one Concord.
Because we all have athletic budgets and. Yeah, I mean, it seems.
There's already precedent for doing this because Cabot's been paying Bloomfield free. Team, so that their kids can play on the member to member and cooperative.
Would we pay a fee or do we pay a fee for our baseball players because they're ally, for instance, or?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Question. I don't.
But-
I'd have to.
If they asked for it, we would.
Yeah, they absolutely would.
If they said we owed it, we would pay it. If they sent us an invoice, we would be stuck paying it, I think.
That's right, because you're not building a baseball team.
Not gonna approach, you're not-
I don't think so.
Just to be clear, if Danville kids go and play on a Twinfield team, Dan, if you're gonna set up this fee schedule, then Danville's gonna have to pay money, or we could do like an exchange in kind. I don't know how complicated.
Right,
it
they're
is.
exchanging 5 for 5 or.
Something like that. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
possibility. That might be, Bernie might say that's crazy.
Might be too hard to.
I don't know.
Just cut the check. Don't you
But
think?
if it's a unified Cabot, Twinfield and Danville team, would you do that?
Right.
Because that's a unified team and not a member to member agreement.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm just.
So this is part of what we need to find out from the superintendent, is what kind of information you need me to bring to the CCSU to present this. Who can I start getting?
I mean, if Danville sends 8 baseball players to Twinfield and they have 4, you know,
Right.
hey, you know, what's going on, member to member, no, they're not gonna accept that.
If you send 8 kids over there to play baseball for them, it's their budget that stipend comes from the coach, not yours.
Their umpires, their fields.
They're paying for the
everything.
umpires, they're paying for the fields, they're paying for the maintenance. And so in that case, if they ask you for 8 units of whatever this number is, they're justified in asking.
Right. And in that case, if there are 4 at Twinfield, 8 at Danville, it makes sense for Danville to be the host.
If we had a
If
coach,
we had it, right,
if they have the coach,
right, if they're gonna coach,
If
if
they
we
have
can get a coach, we want number, yeah.
but so you're not looking for a second coach, otherwise you're, in this particular case, we're short one coach.
I
So,
think there's all kinds of permutations. and
Yeah.
You just need to have a basic fee structure and then you'll know how to sort it out.
Yeah.
The other case fee.
Yeah.
And I think my point is in bringing out, I think Kevin Twinfield, the reps on the CCFD board, they're gonna get this. They're already used to doing it.
Would this include skills, so K through, bars are K through 2 here, but skills where you don't have a rep because there aren't games? It would still be our gym, will we still charge, maybe the fee schedule is less, maybe it is for communities. For less for a skills player or. is it-
They're all,
Can there be these, do like that?
you can start it at 3 if you want. You say we want to start it at 3, it's still just open, stays paper for one tournament.
Right.
For the soccer and the basketball, just,
I don't think there's a tournament. It's
Just free for
it's
all.
all volunteer coaching.
yeah, there was one tournament the few
We
years
used
I
to
was
do that,
involved.
we used
I
to
was
be
to do
very high.
Yeah, we pay for these facilities.
You waive it to a certain point, and then when you start, really have to start paying for referees.
You do like a base for the.
So
facilities
ignore it from,
and then-
and again, this is how you.
custodians gonna leave the gym afterwards, and the bathrooms, and the common area. So there are costs. I think, start with, get the list from Keenum East and, Waterford or Waterford. We could use that as a,
Yeah, Randy's already done some work around this.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that you take that.
Okay.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, so what I think that what we'd like is for the superintendent to reach out to our two CCSU athletic directors and say, I understand you've done some work on this, and can you show me the work you've done?
Do you need the numbers of how many are coming from the other towns? Is that helpful? I'm thinking more like when you're at the TK board meeting and
It'd
be helpful to have
like order of magnitude, how big is this?
Okay.
Because if we're going through all those 3 kids, like. Yeah. I think you should address this.
I think it should.
This is going to become a more frequent question or issue for all 3 schools. Because it's not
But this isn't, I don't want this to be a 3-school thing, I want it to be a 7-school.
7-school thing, right? But I'm just saying that the schools, to a certain extent, are all seeing loss of interest.
But if it's a 7-school thing, and it's easy to say, now there's a program over here, we're not in the same district, we have an agreement, we can move kids over easily. You might be able to save some of these teams and activities. But absent that, then just one town takes on, yeah. the expense.
I'll reach out to Randy.
Okay, so
Good going on.
it's a good idea. I like it.
Very depressing state of athletics. Yeah, well, it's a societal field. So. I agree with you. I mean, it's a change. I mean, we always played sports growing. Well, I didn't, but I mean, we're always sports growing.
all right, so there's no action on that one, so we can move on if you'd like. Next, with NESDEC.
Yeah, what did you want? I didn't remember that earlier discussion.
So we were discussing in the building committee meetings, we had over the course of last spring and fall, with facilitators, some thought exercises that we did. And then Eric brought in a spreadsheet that became a theoretical exercise. And he had some enrollment numbers, and then he had some other stuff that was going on. And then we decided to join on with NESDEC, and they had some enrollment numbers, and we wanted to sort of see if our enrollment numbers matched these projections. And we were looking, trying to figure out what we can get for our money from NESDEC. If we can form a committee of board members to speak to them and seek out information, because it seems like they gave us one report, and I don't know where we're going to take that.
Well, there's other services that NESDEC provides. I think the way I recommend you address this is tell me what you're missing. And then I'll see what they can do and what's that's going to cost them to do.
So,
Some of it may be included in the agreement that we have and some.
And they do prefer to speak to a superintendent versus board members. I do.
This is where I wasn't entirely certain if it was gonna be them talking to us or them only communicating with him.
I think it's easier. They said, I reached out way back when we first were looking at them, and they said for inquiries, it should come from the superintendent.
So the biggest, I think, gap that we have in order to have the NASDAQ stuff useful is that they did not model our school as one that gets tuition kids after sixth grade. So the school essentially doesn't change population, grades don't change population as they go. So on average, we gain 3 kids in 8th grade, for example. Going back.
Well, that's it. Are you sure? Because I gave them data on our tuition income.
I'm pretty sure. And
That could have been a goof then because I gave them the data.
but that's sort of just one thing. The bigger part of that is that in order to really understand the financial implications of, like, for example, tuitioning our high school, we have to know how many resident students we have.
Mm-hmm.
And that number doesn't exist in the next.
Yeah, tuition kids are, we did talk about that at one point after we saw the report. You mentioned that they can go into more depth and break things out if we need them to. And so I think that was one thing, seeing the tuition student trends versus resident student trends was something we were looking for.
Right.
Having in more detail about, because obviously that does affect our revenue, our numbers and.
So, okay, so the issue with trying to model incoming tuition students is that they would have to have population data for all the towns we might draw from. And they don't have that. And I'm not saying that they wouldn't do it, but they're not going to do it within the.
They might do a really naive.
Like based on our
Sure.
trends, what we've had for the last 5 years, who's how many, I know it's dipped.
5 years
um,
trend.
But I think the dip is also, that's in line with for New England, what we're projected to see. I don't think the dip is us. I think it's a general trend downward in enrollment. So I think if we look at our past 5 years, similar to how they did the general population of students, they could use just trends that we have coming in, I think, and then project out would be my guess would be how they would probably do that. Right, because we don't know for sure what these other towns are going to look like. But I think that's something we need to talk about is if we're trending downward, which we're seeing, that's projected to do that in New England overall. We got to talk about what we're doing with that. It's not the principal's fault for not getting out there and banging the doors, you know?
All right, so
Yeah.
that's a conversation on it.
Yeah,
It would just be great to have that split out, and our numbers are really not that far off. They're all both in the same direction, but I split out tuition and resident, so our resident is well under what their total population is. My total population is a little over.
So it would
It'd
be
really great to
helpful,
see.
it would be helpful if you could sort of give an indicator to me in writing,
Sure.
but I can send to him, so that he has an idea of both of you separately.
and then put it to-
Separately to him, or
And they should have given us a special ed report too that comes with a membership. That was another thing we talked about with that $900 unpaid. I
That
thought
wasn't in there?
it was only the enrollment. There was no special ed. Was there a special ed report in there? I don't think there was. I think it was just the enrollment
Yeah, I
report.
see, it really,
Yeah.
it really just looked like one set of data, and then we said the data's a little bit wonky, and then just changed it. And then we haven't been back from, so we sort of squeeze them for our value.
It sounds like they're pretty responsive, so that's good. And then the other question is the kind of more customized work, whether we wanted them to vet Eric's spreadsheet and Mark's numbers, and I mean, we need to talk about that, whether we want to do that or.
Well, I think that there was a talk in the meeting about vetting Eric's spreadsheet, but it's fully theoretical, and there's too many variables, and that is not a CCSU document, the thought exercise. So there's really no way to vet. At the time, he was a community member and a committee member, but he wasn't, and it was just full of variables.
Right.
And so it was really difficult to vet that in terms of
do we want to make that a CCSD document, is what I'm saying too? Do you want
That
to
one, no.
or
We have to start over.
go through the process and use those numbers to be able to tell, but we're gonna be able to tell the community something, but it's gonna probably come up again. And I think having the numbers to back what we're saying,
I think that'd be something that we would request from our finance department. If we were gonna get vetted, we'd
well,
have
you
to, we would
talked
have
to
to come
Mike.
external.
You might
Yeah,
want-
it was, yeah.
Are you talking about you did some work on, we tried to model the taxes back through the
Yeah.
cost of, and then you went and talked with Mike and he gave you.
Yeah,
Yeah, so all those assumptions came from Mike.
yeah, gave you, okay, so I think they're on the same page.
I'm not sure why because we can recreate that. I don't know why you would pay us.
The concern came up about having a third party that is neutral to be able to say, yes, this looks reasonable to me, that this would be, that's come up a bunch, that,
In order for them to do that, they would have to have detailed understanding of the finances.
It's the age old thing is they don't, people that don't want to believe any numbers that you give them, don't want to believe the numbers you give them. And they don't know that you do this for a living in other districts that send kids to tuition students out. And it's just, it's an age old argument. They don't know that. And so one of the things that we wanted to start looking at maybe is look at the CCSD district who tuitions and what percentage of their money for high school kids goes out. Look at KESD, what position, just get an idea of how much money goes out versus how much money don't go out.
and maybe that's a one way to do it, and take the finance department and Eric's numbers, that's been checked, and then compare it to other districts, and maybe that's enough of a reassurance that people, feel it's a valid.
The two districts that have school choice, CCSD and CCSD, we know every year there's a projection of what they're going to spend on tuition. Based on, because we do an enrollment analysis, look at who's graduating from 8th grade, or in the case of teaching, who's graduating from 6th grade, where are those kids going? Because principals sit down and they, to the best of their ability, they pin it down. Your kid's going here, your kid's going here, whatever. Some of them come to Danville, some of them go to other schools, okay? So that's not every year, because we have to budget for outgoing tuition for 7 to 12 or 9 to 12 for CCSD. So we know how to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. And it literally is a function of pinning down to the extent we can, our families tell us in advance, where's your kid going.
Yeah.
That's not something that, I'm sorry that people don't trust the work that we do, but you don't want to spend the kind of money that I think that it would take to get paid NESDEC.
Yeah, and I think what we had sort of gotten to was just hey, we have two different sort of enrollment projection numbers. Can we just take like the NESDEC, the finances, I worked with Mike, so those are all sort of there. Can we take those enrollment numbers from NESDEC and plug them in? What I'm finding is sort of by looking at these going, I don't have the breakout of tuition in high school students. So I can't just plug in NESDEC numbers and say, hey, this is their projection of our
I guess I
population.
don't understand what the question is that you're trying. I'm not trying to be difficult, but I'm not. You're trying to answer.
We're talking about this now because I couldn't understand the question.
Can we get independent projection of enrollment
Right,
in Danville?
that's what NESDEC did. They will give you an enrollment projection. But then what do you try to do with that?
So if we have it broken out by resident and tuition,
Yeah,
then what we can do is we can take a look at the tax impact of school choice out into the future and show, hey, generally this is a bad idea for the next 10 years, even with a declining population that we have.
Right, having data to back up what we're saying to the community, just,
We're making the case that school choice here is a bad idea.
well, it's not a bad idea. It's an expensive idea at the enrollment levels that you're at, right?
That's right.
They can
That's-
always decide to close a high school and bear the tax impact of doing it.
Right, and this is the whole thing is going through what is that tax?
I think in my experience, having dealt with this for years in Cabot and initially here, is what people they don't look at the right numbers. And they'll look at the high school tuition rate at another school and then compare that to our announced tuition in Danville and say, well, it's just as cheap to send them out, when you're not comparing apples to apples, because our announced tuition rate here for our rates here for the students that come to Danville, or the resident students in Danville, that's the full package, including special education costs.
Yeah.
Okay, if you tuition kids out to another school, and to the extent that any of those kids are on IEPs, you pay an additional fee for that.
No, I fully understand
Okay. So
where that comes from. That's why I was just saying, if we have the independent enrollment projections of those that we can plug in, that was all that they were looking for as sort of the independent verification.
But if not, can we decide that what we project is our numbers, that we trust our own numbers
I think that's
for
right.
enrollment
Right, I
projections
think
for
that's the need
tuition?
the committee to trust. I think they trust Eric's document. That's good. I think that was a great presentation that you had. I think they trust Eric's numbers.
They were
Not that
short.
they don't trust Mark's, but I think it's a double, like, something to back up
They were
the
short.
administration's numbers.
Sure.
And then I think, if we wanted to go an extra step, we could just say, look, the increases that the schools that send have been this every year. That's another factor to kind of back up what we're saying too, but I think that having that NESDEC information that Eric talked about to compare residents versus tuition students, that's kind of that final step. And then at that point, we've integrated the NESDEC information in. And we have, as a committee, I think we get the committee to say, yes, this is gonna be more expensive. That's kind of where we're trying to. If the committee can come to that agreement, I think the community, it's easier to reach out to the community.
yeah, I would love to get this community to that point where they're comfortable with the data.
Yeah,
But I still think you're mixing apples and oranges here, because the number of students that you take in at Danville on an annual basis is revenue. If you close the high school, it's revenue loss.
right.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That the model takes
That's
account.
all.
It's revenue
Yeah.
loss, so it's got nothing to do with enrollment.
Right.
We have seen that number come down. We've had fewer students come in. So I understand this question about, is there a way to project potentially how many students might be coming down the pipe,
Yeah.
in the next
Well, yeah, and
5 years?
even without tuition revenue coming in, even with just sort of our resident high school students, it still sort of doesn't make financial sense to tuition them out.
Right.
And so really it's just sort of having that projection of saying, okay, here's what we think, here's where, what we think and the model is adjustable. So you can say, hey, what's the cheapest way we could do this? So we send them all to just a Twinfield, for example, instead of St. Jay, which would not be realistic. But you could do that and even show that even that would be more expensive than.
And he has all the factors, all the complicated pieces and parts are in the model that he ran by Mike. So I think people are feeling confident about that because they saw, I think, all the details, the level of work that went into that, and they
It's
saw
just the people in the committee, it wasn't.
just the committee.
It
That's
wasn't
not
presented as a-
Yeah, so I think our
It's
next step
theoretical.
is like, do we make this kind of public information that yes, it will cost X if we send students out? That's kind of the next step where we're at, I think, with the committee is Eric updating the document and then the committee coming to an agreement, say, yes, this is the number we're going with.
And
people are
how can you
asking,
improve that?
You get
Well, look at the spreadsheet.
You get a little bit
We
here.
need his numbers.
You get a little
Your
bit here for
spreadsheet.
Eric and for Molly.
Right.
When Eric is trying to do projections, he's doing the work of the finance department, it's not Steve. So a little bit of this has got to be put to bed because Eric can't do this right. This is my. So
maybe Mike releases it.
what I need you to do, in the short term, is write up concisely what you're looking for NESDEC, so we can take back to these meetings, and let's see if we can get from NESDEC some better information. But the line's a little bit blurry right now in terms of, this is why I keep saying that Eric's is theoretical, because it's not something that he's done, and we cannot make it a public document because it's not been vetted by Mike It's not been vetted by the finance department, it's not been released to the administration to this. It's been brought by a community member to a committee, and we've looked at it as a thought exercise, but it is not a
Right.
CCSU document, it's not a Danville document. And if it becomes a Danville document, it's work done by somebody who doesn't work for Danville. And it's not been vetted. So we have to be very careful about not blurring that
So
line.
that's more Mark, I guess, if Mark, if you feel comfortable with Mike, if you were to again talk to Mike and that becomes this document that we need to be official.
Do I have to would Mike have to recreate it from scratch?
No, he would have to sign off on it.
Sign
It's
off.
But you have
accurate.
to sign off on it. And
Right,
so I just want to be careful that we just can't say Eric did this work. Because Eric doing this
Right.
work, this has to come from the finance department.
Right.
Otherwise, it's on Mike's head. So,
not yours.
All right, so somebody's gonna send me a list of the additional data that you would like to have, and I will see if Nestor
Okay,
can provide it, and if it's to the extent it's not included in our contract, what it's gonna cost me.
and the
okay,
newspaper guy's gonna ask me again, can I have the document? No. Theoretical exercise. No.
so first step is get the information to Mark for NASDAQ, and then after that, we would talk about the process
where
to
we
get
got
it
to.
stamped by.
By
And you said you and Mike were in line anyway with that.
Yeah, I walked the every assumption that went into there that about how we split out finances.
Mhm.
In the school was
That makes sense.
so I don't foresee a problem with him.
I don't either, but I don't wanna. I don't want it to go.
No,
on the
I
newspaper.
understand, I don't wanna,
I want to go in the newspaper.
You're gonna get it. No
Because I
problem.
want my things some of the assumptions were, that the CLA is gonna stay exactly the same.
I mean, it was, yeah, you can change it, yeah.
But it's tough to project out. No,
Right.
what the numbers that we don't have any access to changing or providing.
Lord knows this year was tough to project.
It's not gonna get better. It's not gonna get better. All right, so that's that. So you guys just let me know what you want on that. Any public input?
Here.
All right, great. Okay, future agenda items. We'll probably talk about NASDAQ again.
hiring authority extension.
You're gonna pick that up in May.
No, not in May. Hiring authority extension, we are authorized through July. We'll probably pick that up. We'll discuss it at some point.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So in May, I'm gonna need to know about summer work, so I'm gonna want to hear from the facilities director again. See what sort of things you're gonna do. I probably will need to see a 70 request. For the field maintenance over the summer, we usually get one of those. So we're chasing for that as well. And yeah, it comes up through. And then I don't know of anything else right now.
I'm gonna send you guys my questions that I had. That was for Clayton. I originally sent them out to Clayton. He said, you really need to send this to the principals because I don't know the answers to these. About sort of all the assessment and testing.
Feel free to ask the principal's questions.
Yeah.
Get to know the building.
So I assume there will
Is that
be
okay
stuff
with
that you'll wanna talk about here to present to the larger boards.
It might bring you some, agenda items out. Some according to the.
Apologize.
Okay, and then I'm gonna reach out to, the new superintendent, the incoming superintendent and the incoming assistant superintendent, ask and invite them to, the community night. And if they can come, then you can come. I'll let you know.
Will you let me know? Please, yes, now?
Yeah, I'm gonna send them an email tonight and I'll see if I can figure out, because I'd like to have the staff to have a chance to meet them, whether they do or not. I like to have a meeting in this building. And then once, if I can get them to say yes to this, then I'll let the other communities know as well that they're gonna come here or that they wanna schedule their own. So, but we have to do something here. So I'm gonna reach out and see if we can get that done. If I can't get that done, I'll work on it. I'll be in touch. All right, next meeting date next month. That's what they wanted. I don't know what they want. I'm not in charge. I said, just don't make me be in charge. So, all right, 7:26, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move adjourn.
Take it. Second, all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.